Okay, Indianola Drumline. This is information about the bass drum audition. Now, I can't record a whole bass drum audition by myself, but I just wanted to kind of explain a couple of concepts for the bass drum audition. The good news is most of the warm-ups that we do as a drumline, the rhythms kind of apply to everybody in the drumline. So you can really look at the snare drum audition information or the tenor audition information and still get everything that you need. However, what's worth knowing is that when you're playing a bass drum part, you're only playing one part of the split, okay? And each line on a bass drum part represents a different part of the split. So looking at the music right here, for example, split number one up here, if you were playing drum number 1, you would only play that very first beat up there on the top line above the staff. If you were playing drum 2, you would play anything that falls on the E line, we would call that, right? The second bass drum line. So you would play, in this example, you would play the and of 1, and you would also play the and of 4 there at the very end. Moving on to sections like number 2, the splits get a little more complicated. So again, if we were looking at drum number 2, you'd play and-a of beat 1, and you'd also play and-a of beat 4 back here. Number 3 uses 30-second notes, which I'll show you in a minute here, but the point is it's still just a faster version of that same split. On bass drum, when there's a slash and it goes through the very middle of the drum, or the middle of the staff like that, that means that everybody's going to play at the same time. So it doesn't matter what drum you're playing, everybody's going to play the entirety of accent tap. The focus of that is just going to be the accents. With a double triple, it's the same thing. It's just that slash in the middle, so everyone's going to play it. The other way that you'll see unison bass drum lines written is that there will just be 16th notes through the entire measure. So like this whole measure 2 right here, all the bass drums are going to play. Sometimes they're only doubled every once in a while, like this is only bass drum 4 and 5. But if it shows all 5 lines filled out, that means all the bass drums are going to play. Okay, most of the winter is coming cadence is all the bass drums. There's a little run in the beginning, and there's at the ending, the bass 5 gets to just go kind of crazy. They play all the 16 notes. So with that in mind, just so you can hear a little bit of it, I'm not going to play all the splits, but I'll show you how some of the bass drum runs might sound if you were playing the whole thing. So we'll pretend like this is a set of bass drums, this being bass drum 1, this being bass drum 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can hear that, the pitch going up and down. So 1's the highest, then 2 is below that, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So a bass drum run in exercise number 1, for example, right, we go high to low to high, would sound something like this. Now, if I was only playing bass drum part 1, looking at number 1 of the 16s and roll exercise, it would sound like this. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. If I was playing bass drum 2, for example, where we're playing the and of 2 and the and of 4, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4, and. If I was playing, let's skip all the way down to bass drum number 5, right? Bass drum number 5, as you remember, only plays there on beat 3, okay? So playing on beat 3 only, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, moving on, some of the other splits are going to sound a little bit like this. Split number 2 is 16th notes, it sounds like this. Again, let me be clear, you're not going to play what I'm playing, you're only going to play one of those parts. So if you were playing top drum, you would just play 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. You were playing second drum, you'd play 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. It just depends on what part you're choosing. And of course, you wouldn't play them on a tenor drum, you would play them on a bass drum sitting up like normal. Lastly, number 3 sounds a little bit different. Okay, it's 30-second notes. So you count them kind of like 16 notes, but they're twice as fast. 1, 2, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Split up like that. Triplets are kind of the same idea. Triplet, 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 triplet. It's all the sextuplets in number 4. So we kind of treat them, we kind of count them like 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but each of those 8th notes is actually a triplet. Triplet, 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 triplet. It's going to sound a little bit like this. So again, if you were just playing bass 1, for example, ready, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and if you were just playing bass 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Apart from that, most of the stuff, you can figure out the rhythms listening to other warm-ups using the snare warm-ups or the tenor warm-ups. Quickly, I am going to run through the general rhythms of Winter is Coming. This is not going to apply to entirely because obviously all 5 bass drums will be playing, but just so you can at least hear the rhythms that the bass drums are doing, I'm just going to stick on drum 1 right here so you can hear it a little bit better and so you can see the angle and what rhythms I'm playing. Okay, I will play the split at the beginning just because it's a little more straightforward. Okay, here's Winter is Coming, the cadence for bass drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 2, 3. So the ending's a little bit strange because most drums are only going to play the following thing. I'm going to start measure 33. I'm going to go to the ending. Here's measure 33. If I was playing anything except bass 5, the part would sound like this. Ready, and. One more time since it's a little bit strange. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. So again, that's playing anything except bass 5 on that bottom line there of the last 2 measures of Winter is Coming.